Going to an issue that is really super common in these lawsuits, again, in my own anecdotal experience, parking lots and accessible spaces. Okay, so this is the required number of accessible spaces based on how many actual regular parking spaces are in the lot. Okay, and this is something that anyone who has control over a parking lot that's available to the general public, that's serving a place of public accommodation, should know and be aware of. There is the requirement to have accessible spaces. Inside the ADAG, you can find the specifications for the accessible spaces. This is a regular space, 96 inches. This is a van space, 132 inches. How many van spaces there need to be is also something that's very clear in the regs, should be easy to find. And then in general, the exterior of a property. Look, the exterior of a property is often what businesses who are sued have for physical barriers have problems with. There needs to be, and again, you can see this website here. It's from the accessboard.gov, which is a government website, which is yet another resource to help explain to businesses what they need to be doing in order to comply with this law. This shows, again, you can see the yellow path, the accessible route. So there needs to be an accessible route from site entry points to accessible entrances to the business. So here you have you have accessible spaces right here, and you have accessible entry points right here, leads to a accessible, there is an accessible route here that leads to the accessible entrances from the parking lot, from the sidewalk, from public transportation. Again, all accessible routes that lead to accessible entrances. This is something that businesses need to pay attention to, and that the owners of shopping malls and strip malls need to pay attention to, that these accessible routes need to be there. And the slopes that are permitted, and the texture of the ground surfaces that are permitted, and the ramp slopes, and the sizes of the parking spaces, these are all the sizes of the doors and accessible entrances. These are all things that are fairly easy to look up in the regulations that we were just looking at for yourself. Very simple. There's a table of contents, or to just speak to a knowledgeable general contractor who knows about these things, or to an ADA consultant, and just make sure that these things are right. I mean, it's going to create access for the disabled, and it is a fundamental risk management technique or factor to avoid being one of the 10,000 plus people or businesses sued every year for ADA violations. It's an important thing to do. Okay, again, more illustrations here, again from the Access Board, this time in terms of the widths that are necessary in hallways, passage space, all that. But again, these are all specifications laid out in the 2010 ADAG, the 2010 accessibility standards, and accessboard.gov, and other sites really have very good informational and illustrative stuff to look at on the internet, which is free of charge.